Due to the hypnotic allure of the sea, surfers have always been drawn to images of waves and wave riding. And since the advent of surf photography, surfers have gathered together to celebrate their unique pursuit, cheer for amazing escapes, cringe at horrific wipeouts, and enjoy the company of their fellow surfers. I'm Zach Canner, and I'm an actor, writer, director, and musician. While I was raised in the mountains of North Carolina, I fell in love with the ocean at the age of 13, the summer I learned to surf at Emerald Isle. And after returning to my coastal home of Wilmington from New York in 2001, I suggested that our local independent film festival, Surfalorus, offer a surf movie night, where surfers and indie film types could mingle and share ideas while taking in some of modern surf cinema's best productions.
We were showing surf movies at Surfalorus really pretty early on. I think probably year 6 or 7 we started showing surf movies that Zach brought to us, and it was one night and it was fun. Surf movies have that same creative energy that independent films have. There's no real rules, people are just having fun. Really reminds me a lot of the whole music video culture. And so they were great additions to the festival. Those screenings were always packed.
Among the attendees that first year was Long Beach filmmaker Joe Scott, aka Jay Brother, a graduate of the same Long Beach high school that produced Endless Summer director Bruce Brown. And in classic Southern California surfer fashion, we conducted his first Zoom interview in between sessions at Malibu.
It's been 20 years, so my memory's a little hazy, but I just remember getting a really nice email from you and asking, if I could be willing to come out. My movie had just kind of come out, so I was ecstatic. I'd never really been to a surf festival before, and so I feel very honored to be included. That was a really cool thing. My dad gave me a camera when I was a teenager, and I just started recording stuff, and I think it was probably when I saw they'd show Endless Summer a lot on PBS here in Los Angeles, KCET, and we would videotape it and watch it as much as we could, and memorize all the lines. I guess fast forward to like early 90s, I was watching all these movies that just had there was like video was just coming out. There was like all these really quick cuts, and the music was not exactly my cup of tea. I just felt like there were a lot of the artistry kind of maybe had left the genre. My love for surfing is just so deep that I thought someday I'd make a surf movie if I could ever meet Tom Curran or maybe Joel Tudor.
The resulting collaboration between Scott, longboard champion Joel Tudor, and master shaper Donald Takayama resulted in Longer, a film focused on riding boards that were, at the time, not all that common in the lineup.
When we came to Surfalorus, people weren't really riding those boards, and I don't think they've even really discovered. There was longboards and there was shortboards, and really nothing in between. So Joel was just such a master at riding all these boards, and Donald the master of making them, that it was just such a honor and opportunity to really show like two major masters at their craft. Donald making the boards and Joel riding them.
The following year saw the debut of a unique movie chronicling the travels of Surfer magazine writer Kevin Naughton and his traveling partner, photographer Craig Peterson. Essentially the Kerouac and Neil Cassidy of the surf world, these two traveled the globe on a shoestring and reported back their various exploits to magazine subscribers who waited for each new adventure with bated breath.
When I first set out to make a surf movie, I thought to myself, well, I want to make a historical movie because I'm interested in historical documentaries. So I kind of recalled a couple surf magazines I had read that my older cousin Craig Livingstone had sitting around in Oceanside, California. And there were these two guys, Kevin Naughton and Craig Peterson, who had done a ton of traveling in the 1970s. They had a bunch of covers of Surfer magazine. And I thought to myself, well, this would probably be a pretty good story. If I could somehow get their story and get all the photographs and get them to agree to do the documentary, then I could make this film. We got the rights to all the Surfer magazine photos, all the covers. I started doing the interviews. And then at some point, Kevin said, well, I have all this Super 8 footage that's sitting in my garage that I've never used before. And I said, what? And so I got to see all this Super 8 footage. And of course, immediately that changed the whole scope of the movie. I was able to use the Super 8 film, and that became kind of the backbone. And I sort of built the story based on all these old Super 8 reels. when I got invited to come screen my film, The Far Shore, at the second annual Surfalorus, it was my first time to North Carolina. And, you know, thanks to guys like you, Zach, made me feel right at home. I love North Carolina. I now have a soft spot in my heart for the place. I got to see a beach culture that I really didn't know much about. I knew there was the Outer Banks, but I didn't know about Wrightsville Beach. And I didn't realize like how hungry some of those surf people are in North Carolina. I mean, the scene kind of reminded me of stories I had heard about California back in the 40s and 50s, where people would drive their cars right up to the beach. There wouldn't be that many people around. Surf would be there. You'd hang out all day. You know, you'd have a cooler full of beers. Maybe you listen to surf music. You go out and surf with your buddies. It was a real scene.
In the world of surf filmmaking, George Greenough has long been a legend. An innovative genius, Greenough pioneered the art of wave riding on unconventional craft. An acclaimed inventor, Greenough fashioned what would become the modern surfboard fin, based on the fin of a tuna. He also managed to take apart a 35mm camera and reassemble it in a configuration more suitable for his purpose, filming waves from within the barrel. I had seen a short clip of a film that Greenough had in the works called Dolphin Glide. It had become sort of a holy grail of surf film lore, and, as things tend to happen, one day a phone call came with a connection that I needed.
Just moved to Wilmington, and I had actually worked as a camera operator on Dolphin Glide. So for about a 3 or 4 year period, George monitored these 2 or 3 beaches that the dolphins would come to, you know, on a regular, almost daily basis. He filmed dolphins riding waves first from the bow of the 14-foot skiff, and that was a disaster. And then eventually got to where he made this little bullet-shaped camera. But he was filming, you know, with film.
In the same way his surf films offered hypnotic perspectives of the rhythms of the ocean, Dolphin Glide proved a captivating screening that year at Surfalorus.
You got the making of first, so you got the documentary about it, and then we got the actual film. And I think the story behind the story in many ways is as interesting just because of the labor of love that it was. I mean, you know, for years and years he was just getting 10 seconds, 15 seconds, like just the tiniest little snippets.
In a world where waterproof cameras are ubiquitous and surf clips are brief and posted online immediately, Greenough's contributions to the craft of surf filmmaking remain monumental.
George's first barrels in, I think, Echoes and Coming of the Dawn from Innermost Limits of Pure Fun, that was a big deal. No one had ever captured that, and I don't think people appreciate that so much anymore, but, you know, times change.
And as surf films continued to evolve, so did the idea behind surf films at the Surfalorus Festival. With screenings almost always packed, it was decided that the surf movies could support their own festival. And in 2011, the Surfalorus Festival was born.
I think we just realized that there was this whole ecosystem of surfers and filmmakers doing really weird stuff, and it really made sense to kind of test it out and see if a whole festival around surf movies would take hold. And we did it for a few years here, you know, at Carolina Beach and Wrightsville Beach. I remember a really windy screening at the end of the pier at Carolina Beach. And then the folks from the Outer Banks reached out to us and said, hey, would you bring Surfalorus to the Outer Banks? And that's really when it took off. It had a place of its own to kind of grow, and now we're getting filmmakers from all over the world who want to come surf the Outer Banks for the first time and watch some movies every night.
It's cool. I didn't expect it to be the way it was. I don't really know what I expected. I had seen a ton of movies in the theater and loved the theater, but a premiere is a different thing.
Outer Banks filmmaker Logan Marshall submitted his first surf movie at the age of 16. 4 years and 4 award-winning films later, Marshall still marvels at the first time an audience reacted to his work.
That was new. It was like emotional. You feel it for sure. But yeah, it was cool hearing cheering and hearing what people got excited about. And I think the next film was a little better, and the editing was a little better, and there was a lot more crowd reaction with that one.
While surf filmmaking had long been a boys' club, in recent years the voices of women surf filmmakers have begun to make themselves heard, and Surfalorus was eager and excited to provide a forum for their stories.
Film festivals for me is why you make a movie, and that's the ultimate goal. It's a chance to be able to share your film with an audience and go through the emotional cycle of a story and like feel it in a room.
And, as so frequently happens in the Surfalorus universe, the more experienced filmmakers often provide advice and guidance to their up-and-coming peers.
Jordan was a big part of what inspired me in a way. When she came, I was there during that process, and I watched her from that whole kind of 6 weeks filming, how she kind of conceptualized the film and that whole process. And I had been thinking a bit before that, okay, I want to dabble, see if I like film, test it out. It's a whole new kind of genre and step in this creative surf journey. And that was really the key that made me ready to do it after I watched that process.
Prifty wasn't the only first-time filmmaker in attendance for Surfalorus number 10. Wilmington photographer Blake Ennis had grown up surfing and shooting surfers, but was more interested in a traditional filmmaking path. But when family friend George Hartner suggested he shoot a video for his band, the Mighty Olas, Ennis saw a unique opportunity.
You know, he hit me up one day, just said, you know, I had this idea for a music video for my new song. I've got Callie here with me today. We've got like 3 days to shoot this thing. Come on out. And I was like, okay, I'll get up early. 3-4 months later, I was driving to Raleigh, and he calls me up, and he's like, guess what? Remember that Surfalorus thing? You got accepted. You know, I've never, had anything like that happen before. You know, I've never really had a video that, more than like my family really kind of saw. So it was very, very cool for me to have that kind of experience, yeah.
Hawaiian surfer Kuyo Young attended Surfalorus as a performing surfer in Keith Ketchum's Precipitate, but surprised us with a just-finished short of his own called Bagpoi, a poignant look at growth, loss, and the beauty of the Garden Isle of Kauai.
As people of Hawaii, we must honor tradition. Woke up early, got a good surf in, had a really, really fun wave that surprised me. Came back, got ready for tonight's showings, had my video featured at the end of the night, which was super special and monumental for me, especially coming to my first surf film festival.
But not every attendee and filmmaker is a neophyte or beginner. Former pro and world champion CJ Hobgood brought 2 If by Sea to the festival. A unique look at the careers of CJ and his twin brother Damien, it lent some serious star power to Surfalorus, if a bit of surfer slack.
ESA championships are going on, and there happen to be some waves. The Hatteras National Championships seems to always score some fun waves. So, and then I went out for a surf, and then we were doing the film festival. So the movie was going to play at a certain time. So, but I think all the surfers were pretty late, so I think it worked out good. So everyone just ended up being late because we were out surfing, but it was just like, it's just a reminder that, even during surf film festivals, a lot of our lives, tend to work around the ocean, for good or for bad.
And while modern technology allows nearly everyone the opportunity to become a surf filmmaker if they desire, there is still a significant reverence for the old school creatives that inspired the genre. Nearly 60 years after its debut, The Endless Summer is still a touchstone film in surf culture. And Richard Yellen's documentary, The Birth of the Endless Summer, had the Surfalorus audience fully enwrapped.
Growing up in Laguna Beach, which was center of the surf industry, and it was where it all started. I mean, back in the day, when they first started showing surf movies, they would show them at my high school auditorium. And so, like the Birth of the Endless Summer movie that I just screened at Surfalorus, that, they talk about the early days of surf filmmaking when they were actually playing Bruce Brown's films at my high school.
The Birth of the Endless Summer follows the exploits of surf travel pioneer Dick Metz, whose solo adventures paved the path for Bruce Brown's success.
I'm probably the one surf filmmaker who didn't necessarily set out to make a surf movie, because there's the old, you know, model of surf movies is like pretty much just the latest surfing, you know, the best surfers on the best waves. And I was never interested in that. I was always interested in storytelling. So I never actually thought I'd be making surf movies. I just gravitated towards stories that connected with the ocean. So it just so happens that my latest movie is the untold story behind what's considered the greatest surf movie of all time.
At a mere 10 years old, Surfalorus is still a total grom, frothing for any scrap of swell. And with the next generation busting down the doors, Surfalorus is hitting that sweet bottom turn and setting up for the tube.
So many good things to say from a filmmaking perspective, from a watching movie perspective, from like a variety of cool venues.
I mean, ultimately, that's what these gatherings are, film festival or whatever. Just an excuse, man, to get everyone together and see everyone.
So yeah, especially meeting other filmmakers. That's a crazy thing. Those are hard to come by nowadays. There's plenty of creators, plenty of content creators, but it is rare to find a filmmaker.
So we all just kind of vibed right away. You know, we're all very similar people. You know, we're surfing filmmakers.
To be able to come here and immediately like show our story and our experience and what we've been living through in Sri Lanka with this entire new community has been so special. And also to see again the surf culture in the States and on the East Coast, and to see the ocean in a different way.
Surfing is kind of poetry, really. You know, it's like some people say it's a sport, but like Matt Young said, it's really art.
The fact that it's way out there, you know, and you're in these big sand dunes, and there's ocean there, and there's music, and there's films, and there's cool people around. I mean, it's couldn't ask for anything more. I surfed every day, right in front of where I was staying.
And Surfalorus specifically, I mean, it's been such a fun few days of being with like-minded, creative people that all love the ocean, that, you know, staying in a house together, and after each night of films, we come back and we sit together and we start talking about the films and kind of say what we loved and critique it a bit, or talk about new techniques that we saw, and you really do feel that not even just learning process, but broadening of your mind around filmmaking, because you see people from different segments of the surf world or different parts of the world, in Hawaii and California and Sri Lanka and North Carolina, and you just, you grow and you learn being somewhere like Surfalorus, and it's just a lot of fun too.